Hey guys, welcome back to JCS Projects for a long overdue video. The one you guys are getting ready to watch now is the video of building the engine for my crew cab. It's a Merc Cruiser 454, came out of a 90-something boat. It runs great. Just did a simple re-ring job on it, but it's a good little video. I wanted to put it out for you just because I enjoyed the video and I thought it made for a good watch on how to do a really cheap overhaul at home in your garage. It's got probably 6,000 miles on it and it has been running great. The only issues we had on the drive down to Tucson last year was I put a, it was a 5 amp fuse for the fuel pump, which it should have been like a 15 to 25 amp fuse. I can't remember what it is now. It hasn't blown since then and it's been running great. We got a little warm on the drive. We didn't ever really overheat, but it got hotter than you want something to cruise at. 220, 225 was probably about the hottest it ever got, but it's to be expected a little bit when you're running 3,000 plus, 3,500 RPM on a big block. Truck's got like 456 gears. It's kind of, to me, expected to run a little hotter. I didn't like how it ran. So when we got back, we got from Alloy Works is a 4-core aluminum radiator, which it had a 3-core aluminum before. Worked great on the small block. Didn't work so well on the big block. Since then, I've towed with it. I've driven with it in 95-degree weather around here, and it gets up to about 205 at the most it's gotten up to. That's kind of the update there. The update on the channel is there's been a lot of big changes over the last year, which I didn't focus on doing any sort of videos. I just kind of chugging along, doing my building. As you can see, it's got insulation and plywood all up now, up in the loft, up in the ceiling. So that helps out in the wintertime to stay recording or just being out here in general and not wanting to stay in the house because it's so freaking cold. A few other real big ones, big things that happened over the last year was Tiffany and I got married. That one was awesome. I'm super excited about that, her and the boys. Let's see, I quit a job that I've had for about 5 years. So since then, I've been trying to do my own thing, and this is what we're gonna push for. So you're gonna see a whole lot more content. JCS Projects is gonna end up being exactly that. It's JCS Projects. So it's gonna be anything that I need to do. We might be doing some work on the building. We might be doing, you know, lawnmower repair. I don't know. Probably not. It's going to be 99% cars because that's what I want to do and that's what I really enjoy. But there are still things that need to get done, and it's a project. So that's what we're going to do. Things like this. It's not a car, but it's a boat. And I don't know anything about boats at all, but I like boats. I like fishing. I like going on the lake. It's one of the more fun things I did with my stepdad growing up was going out to the lake on his boat with him when I was a kid. And one of the boys really likes fishing. The other one doesn't like fishing so much, but he wants to go on a boat. So we got a boat and take it out on the lake. We can see how that shenanigan plays out because I have no idea what I'm doing with that. This will be the first of hopefully many videos to continue on and be able to interact with you guys. I really appreciate all the comments you guys have put out on my Facebook, Dalton's Facebook, and just the chats about still going. I know it's been a long time, but I'm here to stay. I'm gonna try to do a video a week, and whatever else pops up, whatever shenanigans we get into, wherever, however, we can talk about and figure out what projects and cars and things to do in the future. Right now, the merch store should be back up and going. It'll just be some hats and gray and black shirts for now. Don't have a lot of stuff, but as I'm doing this now for my permanent job, I really appreciate any support you guys do. Anything you guys can do to help, it is amazing, and I really appreciate everything. Enjoy the video. I know it's an old one, but it's a good one, and I'll see you guys in the future. All right, let's see if there's anything left in this oil pan. I have no idea. Come on, how long are you? Fine thread, long, I don't think that's the right bolt. So there's a little bit left in there. So it might have a little bit of moisture in there. But nothing big. Let's see. That's definitely a 3/8. Another reason to go with this is one-piece rear main seal. Those are usually pretty good and fairly foolproof of leaking. I don't have good luck trying to do the old rope style. I've had a lot of people tell me, a lot of old timers tell me different tricks on doing it. Man, I struggle getting those sealed up. Huh? Definitely not adjustable. You just torque those and call it a day. That's all right. I like that. Simple. Right now, that's all I care. I don't know if I should run these. I like these valve covers. I don't know how good it'll look inside there. You can tell these are heads are not, they're at least reconditioned at some point in time, because the Volvos are kind of a gray color. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but these are definitely black. The heads are 100% black. So clearly these have been tinkered with, and I believe he had told me that, but it doesn't mean anything. I have no idea. You can't, not that you can't believe people, but you can't believe people whenever they tell you stuff. I've heard all kinds of things. She's clean. It is clean inside. But once we get all these off, then we'll get a much better look at what it looks like. Hopefully we'll find a blown head gasket. I'm hoping the engine didn't get cracked because they left water in it. All the freeze plugs look like they're in. Even though those are casting plugs, not really freeze plugs, but they kind of act as a freeze plug. That's just not their main design. Again, this other side looks pretty good so far. Popped it off. It was definitely much tighter. Much tighter. Head gasket, much more smashed. And the bolts, I actually had to get my 1/2-inch impact out to get those out. They were all consistent, even across the board. Everything looks pretty good. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing what he has said we had, which was a blown head gasket, but everything looks good so far. So now I'm going to pull the lifters out in order and put them in my tray so they stay exactly where they're at. I already seen some rust on them, so I don't know if I can buff and polish those. I don't know. We'll look at them when I get them out. And then I'll bring it back for when I flip it over and start pulling the lower end apart. All right, here we go. All right. Get this pan off. Put down the tools. Ooh, that's milky. Yeah, there's milk there. That's for sure. Yum. Let's get some rags. Even the main looks brand new. So gonna get new bearings. I'm just gonna order a re-ring kit. All standard re-ring kit. And then we're gonna hone this sucker and just do a basic rebuild on it and slap it back together. It doesn't need it, but I have it apart. So I might as well do it. But that's all I'm gonna do. She's clean. Like, very clean. This is awesome. This will make a good engine. I am going to be ordering a re-ring kit. I'm going to be ordering a dingle ball hone because I don't have one. I've got a stone hone, but I don't want to stone hone this. The cylinder walls look fantastic. Just need to get deglazed. The bearings are actually factory bearings. They have not been done or redone. This lower end has not been apart. If you look at that, can you see that? That says 994. That is a standard bearing, and it was put in this engine in 1994. Both the main bearings and rod bearings show that. Both the main bearings and the rod bearings look as clean as that. I could and probably should just reassemble this and put these back together, because there is absolutely nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with the rings, there's nothing wrong with the pistons, there's nothing wrong with the bearings, there's nothing wrong with the lifters. This engine could have easily just been lubed, cleaned, and put back together. We're gonna go through it all. We're gonna go through the heads. We're gonna look at it. I'm gonna get the numbers off the heads. But we're just gonna clean everything up, put some quick dingleberry rebuild that you'll be able to see here in a minute when I come back, because I gotta order everything. And whenever we come back to this, we will have everything torn apart and dinglebell honed. We're back out here again on getting this together. Well, getting it apart. So I have everything. I got my punches so I can label all my rods, so I can keep those organized and in order whenever I pull those apart. I can label my main caps in the same manner, because then I can just take everything, take it over to my parts washer, wash it real good, clean everything off, and put it all back together. So I don't have to worry about that. I got my rebuild kit. I'll show you that here in a little bit. It's just a re-ring kit. It's nothing special. It's like, now $300. I get it from Northern Auto Parts. It's where I've gotten all of my last probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 overhaul kits. Comes with gaskets, bearings, everything. Really reasonably priced, and they're right in Iowa, so I get everything pretty fast. We are getting ready to get this apart all the way, then we can really clean everything, hone the cylinders, do my piston rings, and then slap the sucker back together. I'm not gonna go over like a full, true how-to rebuild. That's not what this one's gonna be about. It's just gonna be me doing it. So there's probably gonna be a lot of time lapse just so I can get this done. And then we can show to get the engine put in the truck. So I've got some cool stuff for that. That's coming later in this one. I'm still debating whether or not I'm going to put it on the run stand to run it before I put it in the truck, or I'm just gonna go slap it in the truck. We'll figure that out as we go. I don't know what's gonna happen with that. this is what happens. All that's rust out of the water jackets. Now it's not this one's fault because it was a boat motor, so they only cool with water. But that is what happens if you guys run water in your blocks. Coolant does multiple things. One of them is the rusting aspect of your iron block. It also has a problem with, you know, if you're putting the wrong coolant in it and you got aluminum, the coolant can eat the aluminum and cause other problems. That's why you always gotta make sure you put the right coolant in the right motor. If you got a lot of aluminum parts, there's different coolant than just the good old traditional green coolant. But yeah, that's what happens. I've been blowing out the water jackets, and that's the mess that came out of it. Plus all the rest of it that's on the floor over there. But it'll be all right. I got most of it out, and I think that gets all of the flaky stuff, so hopefully it won't cause any problems in the cooling system. But I want to show, super clean. They sent me a little care package that had this and some wheel cleaner in it. And I have yet to use the wheel cleaner because I honestly don't have anything nice enough to clean the wheels on. But I did just get a new Tahoe that I will use it on in a future spot. But right now I'm going to spray this down with super clean. So thank you for sending me this, because I can get all this grease and nastiness off of this, spray it down and clean it out, then we can hone it. Don't leave it on things for too long that you don't want to clean, because it can actually start etching things. So alright, so you just spray it off after you get it all cleaned up. Brake clean, brake wash. I use brake wash. I buy it by the 5-gallon pail, and I use this instead of brake clean anymore, because it is like $100 for a 5-gallon jug of it, and it's like $40 for 12 cans. So this is cheaper, it works better and works longer. Boom. Like I said, I'm not worried about all this at all, but it's clean. The part I'm worried about, this is cleaned off. Let me get my rag here. The grooves are clean, so the piston rings can float and rotate, but that's clean. This is cleaned off. It's all clean down here. I just got to wipe it down, and all this will get wiped down before I go to assemble it anyway. But this gets 99% of the way where I need it cleaned. But that's it. That's how easy it is. Not a big deal to do at all. Doesn't have to be flawless. Like I said, stock rebuild. If you were going something other than a stock one, and you're doing performance, precision, which I don't know a whole lot about, I would like to learn it and do it, but alright, the toilet bowl scrubbing, less than perfect. Let's get a little pressure and actual soap and water on this. See if this works better, because it was not working very well with the scrubby. I was like, hey, it's round, it'll work great. Nope. Apparently that's not the case. That's all we did. We just cleaned them up a little bit. Nothing special. Put a little crosshatch. I could actually probably go a little bit more, but I'm not going to. Get a little heavier crosshatch. That was a really fine hone. It was like 400 or something. It was not a coarse hone, so I'm not going to get extremely strong crosshatches. I just wanted to knock the glaze down. So now I'm going to coat it in some penetrating oil so it won't flash rust, and we can go to actually putting the pistons together. All right, so let's gap some rings. I've been gapping all the other rings. I'm on my last piston. Got a little bit of a rhythm down. My hand's hurting because I'm a big baby anymore, and working in an office versus with my hands makes my fingers sting whenever I do stuff like this. So you got to take one of your fresh rings and do it in the hole that the cylinder's for. In theory, they all should be the same size, but you do have slight variances, especially whenever you didn't have it freshly machined. If you had it freshly machined, your machine shop should get them pretty damn to be identical across the board. But even factory has tolerances of a couple thousandths. So you might as well put them in the same cylinder that you're gonna run it in. And so you take it, compress it down, get it down in there, then take one of your pistons with no rings on it. And I always go down to just right past the oil control ring. And the reason to do that, that gets you about an inch or so down inside the cylinder. And it gets you past any weird variation that might be at the very end of the cylinder, because the wear is all gonna be down further. So this top little section right here, there's no wear at the top of the cylinder because there's no ring that ever rides on it. So this should be factory bore no matter what. And then down below it should start to wear with the rings just in general. That's where ring ridge comes from, is because that ring stops right there and the metal wears below it where the ring's been sliding up and down, while the top section has not worn because nothing ever actually touches it. So it should always be factory bore size. And then I don't know what factory is, I didn't look it up, but I do know that there's a little calculation you do for if you want to run nitrous or boost. And it's like bore size versus blah blah blah, the amount of boost you want, and that tells you how many thousandths. What I figured out was 24 thousandths. Seems kind of a large gap, but that's what it says for running, like I think it was like 5 to 10 pounds of boost, or 6 to 10. And that one, which is 24, will not go in. I checked them earlier and they all are sitting at about 18 thousandths on the top ring, and the second ring was about 16 thousandths. Those might be good enough for factory. If you're just running naturally aspirated and you don't do anything, might be great. The reason why you gap them to put a larger gap is because, let me pull this out, is because when you put it in the bore, you have that little bit of a gap right there, right? Little bit of gap. Well, as the ring heats up, the ring expands. Well, when the ring expands, it can't expand any further than the cylinder walls, so it actually pushes them closer together because it expands. Well, the problem is with boost, or nitrous, cylinder temperatures are way higher than naturally aspirated, and your piston ring starts to get hot, excessively warm. So it expands at a greater rate and more than just a naturally aspirated engine. Whenever that happens, they will actually butt the ends of the rings together, and well, when they get so large, they can't do anything besides go up. So imagine these are the ends of the ring. They go together, then they hit each other, but they're still gonna try to expand if they can't go anywhere. So the only place they do is go up. But when they go up like that, that's when if you ever hear somebody say, I lifted a ringland, that's what they mean. Because inside here, when they butt together in here, and they can't go anywhere but up. Well, when they push up, it puts a pressure on this, and it breaks the top of the piston off. And that's lifting a ringland. Burns the piston, pieces of metal, destroys the cylinder, destroys your head. And you can also get away with sometimes not causing a lot of damage if you catch it early enough. But that's lifting a ringland. That's what we're trying to avoid. So we are wanting to do boost at some point in time in the incision. So I'm setting them up at 24 thousandths. And I think I'm using this right, but it's a pain in the butt on my fingers because you hold it, keep it flat here, and I gotta keep it flat on here, and then you pinch it. Well, when you pinch it, it squeezes either side of this, and it grinds it off. And you just, well, I've been noticing about six to eight turns will get me about what I need. Gotta fine tune it a little bit sometimes, but put it on here, squeeze it together tight. Just like that. And then I take a file, just a fine file, and I just take the little bird edge off from the machine. Just run it down in there. Just like one little pass. I'm just taking that edge so nice and smooth, nothing catches your finger. Put this back in. Take this, push it back down. Even take it in. It's snug, but my feeler gauge does go in. And you get it too loose, it might be 25, but I mean, a thousandths here or there is not going to hurt it. A little looser is better than a little tight. But that's it. And then you go to put it on your pistons. So when we come back, I will start putting rings on pistons, and then we'll start putting bearings in motor. Then we can put a crankshaft in. Make sure you remember that O-ring. I don't know what'll happen if you leave it out, but I'm not willing to find out. So I'm gonna guess you would have oil pressure problems. It's the only thing that would transfer through there. It's for the oil pump. So I'm gonna guess you would have oil pressure problems. But make sure you put it back in. I almost forgot it. Comes in the new rebuild kit, and just stick her in there, and then now put your cap on. Oh yeah, and I did put the rear main seal on already. It's all the way forward. Nice solid thud. And voila, it's done. Throw the pistons in. Oh, put the bolts in and torque them. Alright, so it says 4-bolt main are 110 foot-pounds. So this is 4-bolt main engine. So I'm going to do it 2 different rounds. I'm going 70, and then I'll use my other torque wrench to do the 110 just because it's a longer handle. But 70 feels pretty good with this one. It goes to 170. And hey, if you guys are looking for affordable torque wrenches, ANPUDs are pretty awesome. They are extremely affordable, and I've really liked this torque wrench so far. So I'm just doing 70, and the only reason is just because this one's a shorter handle than my other one, and I don't want to pull that hard. I like leverage. And click, and I'm doing it from the center out, center bolts, then to the outer bolts. Then the rear. Nice and buttery still. You should really rotate it after every torqued cap, just in case it binds up. And then you know which cap is the one that bound it up. and you can try to figure out what caused it to bind up. Sometimes it's you thought you had standard bearings and they tossed in an oversized bearing for a turn to crank, and then it really screws you up. But she's buttery smooth still. So that's the first round. That was 70 foot-pounds. All right, 110 foot-pounds. And so now, longer handle. I don't have to pull near as hard. Getting the same torque. One smooth motion. Not clicking it 30 times. I usually take it and mark them with a paint pen, but these are pretty easy to know if I've torqued. There's not very many bolts. And you're only doing 2 rounds. It doesn't even say to do multiple rounds, but it's always a good idea not to go straight to your final torque. And then I always go straight down the line. And last one, all torqued. Mains are done. She still moves smooth as silk. So that is awesome. Ooh, she got a little shmoo on it, that's okay. So it's a little stiffer to rotate because of the shmoo that we're using and the fact that I have the rear main seal in it. Now I did lubricate that up before putting it on, so it's not dry on there. So rolling this over shouldn't hurt anything. But that's gonna put resistance on it that it didn't have before. All right, time for the cam. Now, comp cams, camshaft lubrication. I just got this out. It looks suspiciously like the assembly lube that I have already. But this is what we're doing. This is what we're using. It's made for it. It goes on the lobes, goes on everything. I already have some on the bearings. I was able to put those in, put that on before putting the crankshaft in. So this is the original camshaft. I have all the lifters in order over there ready to reinstall. Cleaned it, looked it over. It looks totally fine. So if there's any problems with it, I don't know. I guess I'll officially 100% give up on flat tappets and just swallow the $1,300 it is for a freaking roller setup. That's just insane. I mean, they've effectively made it impossible to do a cheap rebuild. I got my bolt in the end of it to help me guide this last little bit. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's it for that. There's no cam retainer or anything because this is a flat tappet cam and the gear itself retains the camshaft. Even though it looks like it has provisions for it, it does not have any sort of retainer. I will show you the back of the gear here in a second. If you look at the back of the gear, that right there is your thrust. So you put that on there like that. And that's what rides on the face of that. you look at the factory one, just so you guys know I'm not being crazy. It's exactly what the factory one was as well, which is in fantastic shape. I'm actually keeping it and the gear because there's no reason not to have it. It's just a single roller. I got a double roller because I always replace the timing chains whenever I do stuff like this. Put that guy on there like that. Roll this. Got my bolts in. So you just line up. I put it in the standard position. This one actually has 3 different positions you can put it in. Triangle, square, or circle. Circle straight up, which is factory. You could advance or retard it. They say if you advance the camshaft, it helps lower in torque. If you retard the camshaft, it helps horsepower. I don't know. I'm putting it in factory. There's no reason not to. These are in. Now I'm going to roll this over. Now this should be straight back up. That looks like I might be a tooth off. Let's go back around and see if I can get it to line up. I'm definitely straight up. So we're good to go. They're lined up. All right, so let's put this one together. On these, you got different styles of rings. Then top, second, you know, it all depends on the particular engine. The packages all come with, you know, second groove, first groove, whatever. In this particular case, this one, I don't know if it'll focus on it, but you can see a little chamfer on this side. That goes down. All right, so you got the chamfer, and on this particular ring, it actually says top on it. So that one faces the top of the piston. On the first ring, on this particular engine, it is perfectly square cut all the way around. So there is no indication on what direction it goes. So on this particular motor, this ring can be installed in either direction. Sometimes there's a chamfer, sometimes there is marking, there's a dot, it'll say top, there'll be a dot grooved in it, like engraved in it, or there's just like a white dot. If there is, then that faces the top of the piston. And these don't have a top or bottom. This is your oil control rings. This is the center. And then you've got 2, but they sandwich just like that. And that's the oil control ring. So I always start with the oil control ring. I put it on first. So let's flip this over. Drop that down on there, just like that. Give her a spin. Then you take one of your other ones, put it just on top, roll it around, drops right in place. Then I always go to a different position, drop that one in, and roll it around. I've been told many times that the ring position doesn't matter on the oil control ring, then it does matter, then it doesn't matter. I don't ever really care about spacing those that much, just as long as they're on there. I don't think it matters. To be honest with you, I'm skeptical if it really matters. I mean, maybe if you line them all perfectly up together, you're gonna cause a problem. I have yet to ever pull an engine apart and have the rings in the same spot or not lined up or anything like that than they were when you assembled it. They're actually made to rotate. They rotate on here. It doesn't just sit exactly in the same spot the entire time. I'm skeptical if there's a problem, if there ever would be a problem if you lined them up. They say you'll have blow by, you'll have wear marks in your cylinders, all kinds of other stuff. I personally don't really know. I just know that you're supposed to, when you put them in, you put your rings in opposite directions. One there, and then your oil control down here, and you're done. That's it. Maybe in certain applications it matters, but I've taken lots and lots and lots of engines apart top, and I've never had one in the same spot as it was when you assembled it. All right, so these cars are small enough that you can actually do this without a ring piston ring pliers, but I like to use them because it makes them easier. It just spreads. You drop right down on, drop it in, it sits right in the groove. Done, simple, beautiful. It's not rocket science. Building engines is actually, especially stock ones, is fairly easy. When you're modifying stuff and you have to make sure everything clears and everything does what it's supposed to and doesn't do what it's supposed to and yada yada yada, then it's a bigger deal. But that's it. Piston rings on. Just make sure they're facing the right way. We'll go over them when I install them, but you always have one there, one there. I always kind of have them off-centered, and then your other ring in a different spot. That's it. Super simple. Now, let's get to putting the rest of these together. 65 foot-pounds. Boom. Let's put this little piece of metal in here. Oil baffle. Unfortunately, that one's been removed too. No, well, it's pretty much has to go that way. No other option. It's not complete rocket science here. You gotta follow the rules, you gotta follow the steps, but anybody can build a stock engine, man. It is precise, but it's not insanely precise. You can put as long as they're like for like, you can mix and match stuff. Dalton, over at Pole Barn Garage, JD's 59, literally has like 4 different sets of rods mixed together in that 390. That is probably one of the smoothest running engines I've ever been in, but it's not a performance motor. It doesn't produce a lot of power, it doesn't do anything, except for it's a good, new, refreshed rebuild, and she runs great. We drove it, heck, I think the day we took it out to Ford Fest, or that weekend, I think we drove it like 12 or 1,300 miles straight, and it had never been down the road before that. Thing ran flawless, drove great, it was a blast. Build it, put it together, go have fun with your junk, all right? All right, now, let's knock out the seal on this and put a fresh one in, even though, again, probably could just throw that back together. Open that bad boy up, get it wide enough that it'll sit down in there. If you got a big socket, you can stick it on there, but it's a pretty big socket. Most people don't have that size. That helps with got a little bit of stability there. All right, clean this out and we'll tap a new one in. Let's see here. Get a little tap. Try to get started. I'm just gonna try to use a flat piece of metal here, and then beautiful, tapped in perfect. Well, that worked. That was really easy. Tapped it right in. I'm just seating them with this thing. So this one has dowels. Most of these all have dowels. Keep you all straight and lined out of where you need to go. I think I bent that. We'll find that out. But I think like the LS's, I haven't ever put one together, but I heard you gotta make sure you have the damper and stuff on before you torque it down in oil pan. They all have to line up together, because if you don't do that, then you'll have a misalignment on this. And you'll have a leak for sure, or it won't go together. Hi, Bobby. Dahmer's saying hi. Hi, Dahmer. But on these, they got nice tight alignment dowels. Put them on. I don't put any silicone or anything on this, but I do put it down in here at the corners where the oil pan gasket goes down on. And then I've seen people fill this void with silicone and then push the oil pan gasket down in. I don't think I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna clean the oil out of it and just make it a dry fit and then push it together and tighten it up. But I will put it down in these corners. Just like an intake manifold gasket, you put it down the corners. That's almost on any motor. That's pretty universal, where anything joins up, where there's a line where a cover meets a block or anything like that, put it on. Otherwise, you just want to put it on there to seal up or hold a gasket in place. If you do it, you just put a thin layer on. Nothing big. But this, I'm just going to go torque this down and put the oil pan down. Around 6 foot-pounds. So, 6 it is. Alright. Oil pan. That'll do it. So, I just filled this cavity here up. Put it here. Just in the corners. You don't want to go too much because if you squish it, then it falls into the pan and it starts to try to clog up your pickup tube. So you don't want to go crazy with it. But you definitely want to do it, or else you're gonna have leaks in those corners. Then you can push it down in, wipe any excess you see away. That's it. Grab your pickup, your oil pan. Boom. Grab some oil pan bolts. That's Tom. And Tom is going to go play with the cat. At least for a minute. Just like most things, you usually want to go center out. I'm not hammering, I'm just seating it. And then we'll go around and actually torque them to spec. This is one that definitely needs to be even. But with that Permatex right stuff, you want to get everything down and tight within a minute or so. And you want to move fairly quickly. Just for the fact of it starts to set up. You don't have to fly, you don't have to do anything crazy, but you do want to move quickly. Move with purpose. That's what they should say. Oh. Okay, this is one thing that big block Chevys are. Freaking heavy. Looks good. Get up there. All right. Heads on, gaskets on, heads down all the way. And then the ARP ones come with washers, and they're tapered on one side and flat on the other. So whenever you do that, you want to take the taper and put it towards the head of the bolt. Like that. Now, these all go into water jackets, so I need to put a little thread sealant on each one of the threads. Not a big deal. And then fastener lubricant Ultra Torque from ARP. You have to put a dab on this side and this side of each one of the washers. Just between here and here, I believe. And that just so it's torqued smoothly and doesn't gall up and create an uneven torque. It allows you to torque much more even and nice. You can do the same idea with just putting a little bit of oil on them. but ARP recommends to use this stuff, and it does work way better than oil does. But when you're doing any sort of torquing of bolts, put a little bit of oil on the backside. Not a lot, just a little, and it'll torque much more even. Just put a little bit on. Whoop. I put some on here already, so as soon as I put it in, it'll spread it around as I start to tighten. Doing increments up to 75. Start in the center, working our way out. Boom. Done. Roll this over and do the other side. Alright guys, it is together. Valve cover is just sitting on it because I'm actually going to paint it black. I think that's decided that this is going to go black. I'm just going to fog it all. It is together. These particular rockers are all non-adjustable, so you actually just torque them to 40 foot-pounds. So all I did was roll it to the base circle on them and then torque them down, and that's it. I checked, they all end up having a preload. They're still supposed to have a 3/4 to half a turn of preload before it bottoms out, and they did, so I think we're gonna be okay. I'm gonna fill this up with oil, and I'm actually using braking oil, and I'm using some additive. So that shouldn't be the problem. The springs shouldn't be the problem because they're factory springs. So if this thing goes flat again, it just is what it is. It's raining. So that's where I'm gonna end it. Just put it together, guys. It wasn't an expensive rebuild.